They woke up just before dawn, all at once, as if something had shaken them out of the same nightmare. The dorm room was gray and still. Backpacks lay on the floor where they had been dropped. Jackets were half removed, shoes were still on. It looked less like a room where 4 students had gone to bed, and more like a place where 4 people had collapsed after outrunning something they did not understand. At first, none of them spoke. They just looked around, disoriented, sweaty, and pale. It was the kind of silence that followed a panic attack, the kind that came when the body woke up before the mind was ready to remember. Then the questions started. How did they get back? What time was it? Why did it feel like they had been running all night? And why, no matter how hard they tried, could none of them remember the drive back to campus? It would have been easier if it had only felt strange, but there were details, small things, wrong things. One of them had dried mud on the side of his neck. Another found pine needles trapped in the cuff of her jeans. Someone else noticed a scrape on his palm that hadn't been there before. They all looked like they had spent the night outside, even though they had somehow woken up in their own room. And then came the first real crack in the illusion. Liam was missing. At first, they told themselves there had to be a simple explanation. Maybe he had gone to his own dorm room. Maybe he had left early. Maybe he had stayed somewhere else after the trip. But deep down, before anyone said it out loud, they all knew the same thing. Something had happened on the road, and whatever happened had not stayed there. 12 hours earlier, the day had still felt normal. They had been driving back from a university field trip, packed into a shuttle van with paper coffee cups, dead phone batteries, and the kind of lazy jokes people tell when a long day is almost over. The weather had turned colder as evening settled in. Rain had passed an hour earlier, leaving the highway slick and shining. The forest on either side of the road had grown darker by the minute, tall pine trees crowding together like a wall. The group had been ordinary in every way that matters before horror begins. Ethan was the rational one. He had a reason for everything and an explanation for anything that made other people nervous. Maya was quieter, the kind of person who noticed things before anyone else did. She noticed atmosphere, silence, tension, and those shifts in a room that most people ignored until it was too late. Josh was the one who kept everyone laughing. Nina was steady, practical, and impossible to rattle. Liam, of course, was the one who turned everything into content. Professor Adam Keller sat near the front, pretending to check emails on a phone with no signal. Ray Donovan, the driver, kept both hands on the wheel and said very little. By the time the last of daylight had drained from the sky, the main road had already been closed off behind them because of a rock slide. Ray had taken a forestry route to save time. He said it like it was no big deal, just a cut through the mountain roads, just a different way home. But Maya had not liked the road from the moment they turned onto it. There was something unnatural about the silence out there. No houses, no passing traffic, no lights in the distance, just miles of wet asphalt and black forest. At one point, as she stared out the window, she thought she saw a figure standing between the trees, not moving, not hiding, just watching the van as it passed. When she blinked, it was gone. No one else had seen it. A little later, they stopped at a roadside diner that looked like it had been dropped into the middle of nowhere and forgotten there. A neon sign buzzed weakly outside, flickering over the wet parking lot. Inside, the air smelled like burnt coffee, old grease, and the kind of heat that came from old pipes and tired machines. The place was almost empty. Behind the counter stood an older woman with a face that seemed kind at first glance and troubled at second. She looked at the students the way people look at travelers who are already too close to something bad. Ray didn't need to order. She poured his coffee before he spoke. Then she asked him which road he was taking. When he told her, something in her expression changed. Not fear exactly, recognition. The students only half paid attention at first. Liam joked about how the place felt like the opening scene of a horror film. Josh laughed. Ethan rolled his eyes. But then the woman began speaking in a way that made the room feel colder. She said that some roads were ordinary in daylight, but not at night. She said that if something called their name out there, they should not answer. She said that if they heard the voice of someone they loved, they should not follow it. And then she gave them the warning that none of them would fully understand until it was too late. If someone disappeared on that road and then came back, they should not trust them. Not right away. Liam, of course, treated it like local folklore, a ghost story, something old towns tell themselves to make empty highways feel important. That was when the woman used a word none of them had heard before. Chalawa. She explained it as best she could. Not a ghost, not exactly. Not a creature in the simple sense. It was something that deceived by becoming what you trusted most. It did not merely imitate a voice. It took shape from grief, memory, longing, and exhaustion. It knew what to wear because it wore the faces already living inside your mind. A mimic, Ethan called it. But the woman had shaken her head. A mimic copies what you say. This thing copies what you miss. No one had much to say after that. As they left, Maya glanced down near the diner entrance and saw a footprint in the mud outside. Human in shape, but backward. She stared at it only for a second. Then someone bumped her shoulder, and when she looked again, it was gone. The road after the diner felt different, more closed in, as if the forest had moved nearer while they were inside. The mist grew thicker. The headlights could barely hold their shape against it. The van became a moving island of weak light in an ocean of trees. That was when the engine failed. It did not explode or die dramatically. It just coughed once, jerked hard, and gave up. The van rolled to a stop in the middle of nowhere. Everyone felt it at once. That shift from mild irritation to the first electric flicker of real fear. Ray tried the ignition again and again. Nothing. He stepped outside with a flashlight and told everyone else to stay put. Naturally, Liam ignored him. As soon as the side door opened, the cold rushed in. Not just ordinary cold, something sharper. Then Maya saw the child. A small figure standing at the far edge of the headlights, motionless. At first, the others thought it had to be a lost kid, but before anyone spoke, the figure turned and walked into the trees. Liam followed it with his camera. That was when something struck the underside of the van. A heavy bang. Then another. The vehicle rocked. Everyone froze. Ray got back inside fast and locked the doors. Then Josh heard his mother's voice outside the van. He went white instantly. The voice sounded real, loving, familiar. Maya told him not to answer. Nina grabbed his arm. Ethan saw something too. His dead brother. The back door unlocked on its own, then swung open. The lights went out. Something moved. When light returned, Josh was gone. No struggle, no sound, just absence. They searched for him, called his name. The forest twisted around them. Voices echoed from impossible directions. Then they found him, standing still, back turned, waiting. Something was wrong. The movement, the silence, not human. They ran. Eventually, they found an abandoned ranger station. Inside, Ethan found reports of another group. Same story, same disappearances. Then, Professor Keller confessed. He had been here before, 15 years ago, and the one who came back was not real. That changed everything. It meant this thing followed people home. They found rules written by someone before them. If it calls your name, do not answer. If it stands behind you, do not turn. If it returns to you, do not trust it until dawn. Then the knocking started. Soft, slow. Josh's voice came through the door. Perfect, real. Then more voices. Loved ones, lost people. The lantern died. Darkness filled the room, and something whispered. It was already inside. When the light came back, Liam was gone. They ran again, found a shrine, old, forgotten, and then Liam came back. But Maya saw the footprints, backward, not him. They ran toward the road. Dawn was near. They found Josh sitting there, crying, looking completely normal. This time, they believed him. They took him with them, and that was the mistake. As they drove away, Maya looked back. Another Josh stood behind them, smiling, next to Liam, and something else, watching, not chasing, because it didn't need to. It was already inside. They reached campus. Everything felt normal until morning. Liam was missing. Mud, silence, and one last detail. Josh's shoes, still wet, still wrong. Maya looked up. He smiled and told her, "Don't look back." Not a warning, a habit. Because it remembered. And it was no longer hiding. Because some things don't hunt bodies. They hunt entry. And somewhere, on another road, in another dark forest, it is still waiting for someone tired, for someone grieving, for someone who will open the door when the right voice calls their name. And if one night, someone you lost comes back, remember this: not everything that returns is yours.